Hello, hello. Tracey Noriega here, paying it forward to you on Power to the PEEPS. And PEEPS stands for Positive, Everyday, Extraordinary People Stories. And today I have Marian Nguyen of PreparaMom here with me. Hi, Marian. Thank you so much for joining. She is here with to announce that next week she's going to be having a family budgeting planning workshop. And, it's one of those things that all of us need to do and we kind of put aside, but even in today's economy and everything that's going on, and a lot of people having to be on one budget or making, unemployment stretch and such, and finding themselves in different places, Marian's really taking the initiative to help families. And I'm going to let her explain what her workshop's going to be next week and what she's going to be doing in it. So Marian,
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me,
yeah.
Tracy. But yeah, I'm hosting it's a free live workshop next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. There's two different times. And is really, again, it's called the Happy Family Budget Planning Workshop. And I know most people hear the word budget, they're like,
Yeah.
don't talk to me about it. I don't want any of it, which is exactly why I am doing this because everybody needs it, no matter whether they like it or not. I'm just here to make it a little bit easier for everyone.
Yeah.
And I have a special way of doing it to ease the overwhelm for people who are wanting to get this part of their life on track. So yeah, if this is you and you're kind of needing this, please, I invite you to come join me next week and learn more about what it is that I do.
Yeah, and I have to say, I know I've skirted or believed myself to have had a budget of some sort because I think a lot of us tell ourselves, oh, well, I have it all on auto pay. Isn't that a budget?
Mhm.
you know, um, and you just think, well, I have enough to cover the bills, and that's a budget, or I'm within my budget, or I'm acting in my budget. And I, you know, I think it's really so powerful, your story, and I know not a lot of people know about your story of how you guys came to this point and the, I guess, financial hole you got yourself out of. Because people are always going to ask, what skills does she have? And for me personally, when Marianne shared this story with me, I actually signed up on her last one and became a part of her stuff because I needed it, and it was so powerful story. So I wanted, if you wanted to share like how you got to this point of knowing you wanted to help people like this.
Oh yeah, for sure. So my husband and I, is probably a lot like a lot of other families out there. We didn't learn about money growing up. And
Mm,
so, you know, I mean, when you charge your wedding on credit cards, that's a
mm,
pretty bad sign, right? But to us, we're like, oh, we can afford the payments, we're good.
mm.
So we were the king and queens of credit cards, charging, spending money, uh, to the point where within the first 2 years of us getting married, we racked up almost $120,000. Well,
that
yeah, it was all consumer debt, right? I know a lot of people who are in debt have either like medical bills or even student loans because that's a really big thing
yeah.
right now. But we didn't have either one of those. I think my husband had maybe like $10,000 of his student loan left that we had to pay for, which is like nothing compared to the entire amount. So everything
Yeah.
was around spending. So
Mm,
we were in denial, completely in denial. But it just finally got to the point where we woke up one day, we had a newborn, looked in our bank account, and we had $10 left in there. And I'm like, what is going on? Because I work as a nurse. My husband is a paramedic firefighter. So, we have good paying careers, both
right.
healthcare professionals. And so I'm like, how is it that we're broke every single month? We
Yeah.
have no idea where our money is going every single month, and we're paying. And it got to the point where it was like, oh my God, this is so frustrating. Like every single money that we work so hard for every single month,
Mhm.
we're not seeing any of it. It's
Right.
like, what is going on here? And so it just got to that point, and we looked at our life. We looked at, our daughter that's just born. It's like, is this the kind of life we want to
Yeah.
raise our kids in? And that really just started that whole us being, okay, that's it. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired of this every single month, and we need to do something about it like now.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what started it. And we, we stuck to our guns. We did what we had to do. We put out a plan. And at that time, it was back in 2011 and 2010, 2011. And, I just did whatever I could. I went and see who was out there that I could get help from, I can learn from, get motivation from, be inspired by.
Yeah.
Because that's all important things that you need to have, because it's a process. It's a journey, and it doesn't happen overnight. You didn't get in debt overnight, so you're not going to get out of debt overnight,
Yeah.
But yeah, and so since then, we've gotten out of debt. We have a really good control over our finances now, and it's something that I know other families who are in the same situation may not be. If I can just help them out and make things more simple for them, they don't have to go through all the trial and errors that we had to go through to do that. So that's kind of one of the reasons why ever since then I've gotten out of debt and stayed out of debt. I've become a budget nerd. Let's just say that. I look forward to my budget every single month, because once you have it all squared away,
Yeah.
you'll be surprised, because then when a paycheck comes in, you're like, ooh, like, okay, what can I do with this? Like, you add it, and it gets exciting when you get to that point. And so I want to share that with other families as well, because I know it's so possible.
Well, that sounds exciting, to be excited over your budget, because that's really not something. I mean, even just saying budget doesn't sound sexy, right? So
No,
I see.
everybody likes to budget. I was never I never liked budgeting, but now I know what the power of it is. It's for me, it's just like it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody should do this. I want to remove the negative reputation that budgeting has had.
Yeah.
So that way people kind of embrace it and learn how to use it for them and not use it against them.
Right. And in fact, there's something there with that. And I think that's an important thing to say, because I know it was something for me just to know you were doing this, and to say, and for me to opt in to go to your workshop, because knowing, I really didn't know what's coming in and what's going out. And right now with me not working, it's like, how long can we do this? And I don't really know. So if you wanted to speak about, because you find yourself with some shame, there's this sort of like, well, how could I can't call myself responsible if I don't even know this, but then you don't even want to admit to yourself that you
Right.
are.
You don't want to admit to yourself, and you don't want to let others know as well how badly things are and how you've handled it, right? I mean, like I said, when we're in that much debt, we were like, no, we'll figure it out. We'll keep going, that type of thing. But it's very, you're disappointed in yourself, you're ashamed, and for us, when people looked at us, they couldn't even tell that we were struggling. That's how it's how deceiving it was for us. But we were like drowning in debt up to our eyeballs, in debt. And and I think it's one of those things where it's a lot of the psychological thing that you have to do to face that thing, because until you do, you're not gonna be able to move forward. And so that's one of the reasons why it helps to do go along and do that process with somebody by your side, to help you through that, because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so if and you have somebody, I, I didn't have anybody working with me at that time when we were working. I think it would have been nice if I did. But I pretty much just try and figure it out on my own, and it worked, and we made it work. But I think that if you do have that support to kind of just keep you going, it's going to be a tremendous value to your overall journey.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, I'm having to plug in stuff. I just realized that something isn't plugged in, and
Out of
it's
battery.
there we go. And that's another thing that brings up is the hand, I mean, it is hand holding. You're hand holding somebody through this process, because I know I can say, oh, well, I tried doing, mint or something like that before.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the same. It was so frustrating to put all of that stuff in, not know where it was coming, getting error messages and going, is this really working? I don't know how it's
Yeah.
happening for me.
I,
So
I think I think that where most people get stuck is because there are so many different ways to budget.
mhm,
And you have to really figure out what's the best for you, not just you, but your household flow. And if you
mhm,
have a partner, how it works with between you and your partner as well, because you have to look at the
yeah,
overall picture. And it's not a what do you call it? It's not a one one size fits all type of thing. It's going to be different. Um, and the way it's set up, and the way you set it up, and the way you manage it, is different. It's going to be different for different people. There's some main common principles that will apply to everybody, but
mhm,
it's definitely a way to set things up so that way it reflects more of how household operates.
right.
Yeah. So it's, how you set it up and how you approach it definitely does make a difference in your budgeting success.
Yeah. So do you mind sharing with people, like, how long did it take you from the 120 in the hole to getting to a point where you had
So
control over
yeah,
your finances?
I would say starting in 2010 and 2013, probably. So about 2.5 years or so.
That's
But
awesome.
the only reason why we were able to do that was because we moved back in with family.
Mm,
We had a home, we had a mortgage that was upside down at the time because it was back in 2008,
mhm,
when the whole more housing market crashed, right? So we had an upside down mortgage. We were paying like $4,000 every single month. Um, and so that ate up a good chunk of our monthly income. And so we knew that we had to get out of it. There's no way that we would be able to move forward like this, um, and be able to pay off all the debt. This it was not going to happen. So we had to do that. We had to move back in with family. We had to work tons of extra hours. Well, my husband did while was home with the kids, and I picked up extra shifts when I could at the hospital, right?
mhm,
But it was we did a lot of overtime. We basically we decided because it was what was good for us. It was we were able to do that because we decided, you know what, we want to knock this out. So we were willing to do that sacrifice. So we didn't go on vacations. We didn't
mhm,
buy anything. We didn't go to eat, barely. We had to say no to friends and family all the time. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. And that's one of the reasons why we had to make that decision. We had to support one another,
mhm,
to get on the same page, and because there were moments where I was so depressed, so frustrated, so sad that this was our life.
mhm.
And we had to keep each other going and say, you know what, this is temporary. We're going to get through it. It's not going to be forever. And this is the reason why we're doing it. So
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, but that doesn't have to be for everybody to be
Yeah,
that.
I was just gonna say that to you. I go, that's if you want to really just put it, you know,
Hmm.
well, for lack of a better, balls to the wall, right? It's just like really tighten up the hatchet. But so maybe somebody's like, well, I'm not willing to do that. Like, I'm just not willing to not go out and not have a vacation and work that kind of overtime, but I
Hmm.
still want to get out of debt. What would you say to them? Would you still say that there's a way out of it and that you can help them? Because,
There is. It's just, again, depending on how fast you want to get
mhm,
out, we have to look at your overall, picture of everything, and then be able to give you some idea of, what it would look like. So if you want to do certain things in your day-to-day life, sure, but just, we have to then balance that out in some of the other areas in your life, right? You still can do both, and we just have to kind of balance things out based on your needs, your wants, and what you're willing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
So,
what have you seen are the biggest leaks that people
oh
aren't
my God.
aware of that they have?
It's basically across the board. It's eating out, groceries, like food wise, and basically just buying, random stuff, their toys, or, going around shopping, clothes shopping, or, stuff like that. So that's across the board. That's probably the biggest expense.
Yeah.
And for sure, it was one of our biggest expense as well that we were not paying attention to. That really, when we actually looked at it, we're like, wow, that's how much we spent.
Oh, I just saw Susie's on there. Hi, Susie. She's joining us. I don't have a way to respond to you, but it just came through. She's saying, yeah, eating out is a killer. So, but yeah, and so I really encourage people because right now, guess what? We're coming into the holidays. And what
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, advice would you have for people? First of all, I encourage you all to sign up for her class. And if you can't make the times, are you having replays? Are you
Oh
sending
yeah.
that out?
I'll be sending out a replay for sure,
Okay.
within 24 to 48 hours. But with Christmas coming around, there's probably nothing you can do this year for Christmas. But because there's what, another month, a month. People are already starting to shop for Christmas already. There's already Christmas decorations at the stores, right? So it's literally right around the corner. But what I have started doing for the longest time now is that I was getting to the point where when it came to Christmas, I was charging it because I didn't have the money for it.
Mhm.
Everything was charging on it. So I'm like, there's no way. Like, what I decided to do was, okay, let's plan for next year. Like, plan ahead. So instead of dedicating or having to spend a large chunk of money right before Christmas, money that I may not necessarily have because it is a large amount. I spent, I think, last year a little bit over $1,000 just in presents, right, and stuff. So that's a lot of money. You can't come up with that a month before. So what I do is let's say I average and estimate how much I usually spend for Christmas, and if it's like, oh, so let's give a number like $1,000. I just take that and divide it by 12. Because if you divide that by 12, you every single month you put that much aside and dedicate it just to Christmas. It's a much smaller amount to tolerate or to be able to, put away every single month instead of $1,000. So
Mhm.
that's how I tackle it, and that's how I tackle a lot of my things. Because even for things that I pay once a year, for, like insurance or subscriptions that are yearly that comes every single year. I plan ahead, and that's kind of all part of your spending plan. And so you want to be prepared for it. I'm all about being prepared. I want to help families be prepared so that way they can focus on other things in their life instead of worrying and stressing about these other things that is being impacted in their life.
Definitely. Well, I hear like somebody would say, well, I could put that away, but how am I not supposed to touch that? So how do you approach that with the people that you're helping, and how's that supposed to really stay there?
Well, that's the tool that I use to track everything and to kind of manage everything is via an app. That's what works for me. I use YNAB, and I've used some of the other ones too, but YNAB is the most user friendly, has the most feature and functionality, and I track everything there. And there's a process, there's a system that when you set it up and you create it, you can kind of put that aside. And once you start getting into the work of it and like kind of just developing the habits, you will learn that there are certain areas within the system, the app, that you just don't touch, you know. So the same thing with emergency funds. It's exactly the same thing. A lot of people right now is
Yeah.
if they were to lose their job or something like that, which a lot of people have, none of them have, not gonna say none of them, but I'm sure there's a lot of them that don't have an emergency fund set up. And, the recommended amount is at least 3 months of your living expenses that you have put aside. And now, because what COVID has been since March, it's been more than that 6 months. So some people, some of the experts are even saying you should even go up to a year now and have that put aside. But You know, obviously not a lot of people can do that, but I would say at least the minimum 3 months to start off with, and then you can go from there. But yeah, emergency funds, the same thing. You know,
Mhm.
once you get organized and you see and it's all about having that security, that sense of security and that peace of mind, knowing that you have that there.
Mhm. So just want to encourage people again that, Marian's having this workshop this weekend, point all these things out, and then, make that offer to actually do that hand holding, helping you with your budget so you don't have to feel alone doing it, and to play out all these scenarios. As you've seen, she's
Uh,
been able to get her family out of it. I was like, okay, well, she can do that with 2 kids and 120 in the hole. I'm like, okay, I know I don't have that much. I think she can help me. So it's been a definite learning process. And I will tell people you are gonna confront things. And there is a bit of that, like just the shame and the embarrassment and all of that. But I can attest that Marian is very, holds a space for you and can handhold you through it. And, she's been there. There's no judgment on her part from that. So,
like I said, I am the worst, most guilty of spending crazy amounts of money and just, so I am there with you. No shame, no judgment, because whatever you spent on, I probably spent way more. Like everything was charged.
yeah,
So yeah, you just know that, you may have those feelings, but it's in your control. You
yeah,
can turn it
yeah.
around. You can
Yeah,
definitely turn
we can make a choice, right? We can make a choice to take control over it or let it control us.
Yep,
So we're
for
going to
sure.
wrap up. But for people who, this is Prepare Mom again, Marian Nguyen. And, you didn't start out with budgeting. You got into budgeting. But where did Prepare Mom start from?
The funny thing is, so I've been a nurse for 16 years, and I started getting to, towards the end where I felt like this calling of wanting to do something different, especially wanting to be more available for my kids as well. So I needed to, so that I had multiple things calling to me. And so what we did actually first to venture out into outside of nursing was we started an e-commerce. And again, it was all around, okay, what can we do? The question that I was like, what can we do to help moms? I really wanted to help moms, right? Because I'm a mom and I can relate, I can resonate. And I was like, okay, what can I do to make things more easier for them? What can make things more convenient for them? And being, a healthcare professional, like having that background, like, oh, what about a first aid kit that goes beyond just your basic, supplies. And so we created our own version of a first aid kit for moms. And so we made it kind of cute and fun looking, and we went beyond a little bit just by adding additional things in there that moms would need on a day-to-day basis when they're out with their kids. Things like, nail clippers and lip balm even, right? And hand wipes. Um, and then all this other stuff too, safety pins and tape. So those stuff will save the day on many, many occasions for just random day-to-day things like,
They are
this is
emergency items. Yeah. How many times is like, do you have a safety pin? It's like, who has
we have scissors. My son has even used scissors while we were waiting in the car for his homework, and he needed scissors. I'm like, oh, hey, I have it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so we started off with first aid kits, and then again, just helping moms be more prepared for the everyday life. And then again, then I got more into, I mean, I've always been a budget nerd, but then it came to me like, you know what? This is another area that moms really need help with to get
Yeah.
them more prepared in this area, especially for kids. Really, at the end of the day, I want to empower kids to grow up financially confident. So if the parents can have that same, skill sets, then they can pass that on to their kids. So that way, we are raising the next generation of kids who, can make better decisions.
Financially responsible. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, that's why we're all in our, funk that we are. Nobody really taught us. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome that
exactly.
you're doing that. So,
Again, yep.
all right, everyone. Well, we're kind of coming up on the 25-minute mark, and please, once again, if you're still with us or you just joined us, I see Yoram's in there too. Hi, Yoram. please, Marian is having a workshop. It's next week. Again, if you can't make the times, just sign up and she'll send you out the replay, and get informed, get educated about the budget, know where you stand with everything. And yeah, as she brought up, it's not just for you, it's for your family, and it's also for teaching your kids to be fiscally responsible as well.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way, because all of us are where we're at because no one took the time with us and they just didn't have the education. So Marian, I just want to say to you, and that's why I love having you on here, because you're looking to pay it forward, not only to other moms, but for them to do it for their own family, and so on and so on. And so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah, thank you. And you made, if anything, Marian can make budgeting fun and make you smile about it. So
Yes, for sure.
all right, everyone. Well, the links are up above or down below or wherever they are. Go ahead and please sign up and get yourself ready to get fiscally responsible so you can enter 2021 knowing exactly where you stand. Okay?
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right. And to everyone else, have a beautiful, never before lived day and stay happy, healthy, positive. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.